Imagine flushing $30,000 down the toilet in your first year of real estate investing. That's money that could have been cash flow or money that could have been used towards the down payment on your next property. How brutal would that be, and would it make you want to quit real estate? Well, that's exactly what happened to me, and I almost did. I mean, how would you deal with a house that literally started collapsing on itself, or sewage water overflowing out of the shower drains and sinks? These mistakes cost me well over $30,000 and several months of constant phone calls and stress. But they forced me to build a completely new system for buying rentals, a system that has saved me tens of thousands of dollars ever since. Looking back, there were just 3 massive mistakes that I made that caused almost all of the problems that I was having. And I now live by just a few simple rules to make sure they never, ever happen again. Now, when I first jumped into real estate, I was running on pure optimism. My grandpa was successful in real estate, and so I was inspired to get started as well. I read books and listened to podcasts about real estate investing and then thought to myself, how hard could it be? My initial goal was super simple. Buy a rental nearby a college town and then rent it out to college students. And then I found it. What I thought was going to be the perfect property. It was a $262,000 house, 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms in Stockton, California. It was just a 5-minute walk from the campus's library, so it was a perfect location. And on paper, the numbers looked perfect. I felt a shot of adrenaline. This is it. This is what's going to change my world. Little did I know what would happen next. The home inspection report came back, and it noted that the HVAC was aging but also functional. That was the exact word that they used. It was functional, which to me meant that it works. And for a few glorious weeks, it did. Then the first summer heat wave rolled in and my phone blew up. The AC is dead. And another tenant said, my items are literally melting because of how hot it is in my room. You can see the actual text messages that were sent to me right up here. All my hope for making cash flow in my first year of real estate investing on that house vanished like a puff of smoke. The AC unit that was supposedly functional was now taking its last few breaths. I had to call in an HVAC technician to take a look at it, and I expected a repair bill of maybe a few $100s. That technician took one look at the AC unit, sighed, and gave me the bad news. This unit is toast. The refrigerant R22 is completely out and is banned in the US. So you can't get it anymore. You're going to need a full replacement. And the quote, $11,500, which was more money than I had in the bank at that time. And I realized that the real mistake wasn't simply that I bought a house with a bad AC. It was that I had no system at all for vetting deals reliably to avoid these costly mistakes that I made. So I had to learn how to build these so-called systems. One of these systems is this. I get a general home inspection as recommended, but I really look at the inspection carefully and look for any items that are near the end of its life, aging, or wasn't inspected at all. Keep in mind, I'm talking about major home systems only. If that happens, I immediately get a second follow-up inspection from a specialist to get a second opinion. Think of it like this. When you go to your doctor and he or she is not sure of their diagnosis, usually what they do is call a specialist like a cardiologist in for a second opinion to actually confirm your diagnosis. It's the exact same thing with these home inspection reports. Now, there are really just 6 key major systems that you need to be paying attention to, and that is the HVAC, the plumbing, the electricals, the foundation, the roof, and the sewage line. For HVAC, for instance, I'll hire a licensed HVAC technician and pay them $200 to fully inspect the HVAC and then give me a quote for any repairs that need to be made or a full replacement cost. Paying that $200 fee to the HVAC technician has literally saved me from buying money pits at least a handful of times. And what you want to do is get that quote and send it to the seller and use it as negotiation power to pay for the repairs before you close on that property. Most sellers will pay for at least half or even up to the full replacement cost of the quote. And that's really what makes the difference between having a proper vetting system for finding deals versus not having one at all. Going back to the story about my first rental, things unfortunately got worse before they got better. So I bought that first rental, and a few months in, I get a call from one of my tenants at 11 p.m. at night. Dude, there's sewage water that's backing out of the kitchen sink. It's all over the floor, and it's also overflowing out of the shower drains. Being the amateur landlord that I was, my heart started racing, and I was wondering, what do I even do for this? After making about 10 or 15 calls to various different plumbers out there, I finally got one who was reasonably priced and was able to get there immediately to fix the backup. Unfortunately, when he stuck his camera down the pipe, he discovered that there were tree roots that were digging into the sewage line and completely cracked the line in half. I had to replace the entire line, which cost $9,000. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, I simply didn't have any vetting system whatsoever. What I should have done was added on a sewage lateral line inspection because these aren't normally included in the typical home inspection. And for houses that are older than the 1980s, you want to add these on because those houses might have tree roots sticking into the pipes. Which, by the way, about half the houses in the US are older than the 1980s. So if you add this onto your vetting system, you'll literally save yourself thousands of dollars in sewage line repairs. After the HVAC and poop story fiasco, you would have think I learned my lesson. I was very careful when I looked at the next home inspection report, but unfortunately, I missed something yet again. The report flagged some minor cracks in the foundation, which was typical for its age. I let those words comfort me. Typical sounds fine to me. Typical sounds normal. It definitely doesn't sound expensive. Unfortunately, I was wrong again. I bought the house, and for a few months, everything was quiet. Then I get a call from one of my tenants. I'm not sure what's going on, but the kitchen is, for lack of a better word, sinking. I went over and my heart dropped to my stomach. You could literally drop a marble on one side of the kitchen and it would literally roll all the way over to the other side of the kitchen. I called a structural engineer and he confirmed my worst fears. The inspector had flagged an issue that I had glossed over. The wooden joists, which were part of the foundation, were cracking and some of them were even split into two. So one side of the house was slowly collapsing. What if the entire house collapsed on itself? The home was literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, and to think that it could all come crashing down in an instant made me nauseous. Should I evacuate the tenants for safety? What if these tenants come back to sue me for providing a house that was unsafe to live in? The fix involved jacking up the house, putting in new support beams and joists and columns, and the total cost was $7,175, and with that, my cash flow for the year evaporated. This experience really forced me to rethink how I pick my markets. For example, I now have 28 questions that I ask myself when analyzing a real estate deal to determine if the rental will be successful versus a huge financial pit. One of these questions I ask is simply, how old is the house? Older homes just have more foundational issues, unfortunately. So here's the filter that I use to try to best dodge this problem. I target cities and neighborhoods where the median home age is post 1940. You can literally ask an AI like ChatGPT or Grok for a list of US cities in your state where the median age is 1940 or newer to get a starting list. Or you can go to Zillow.com and filter houses that are newer by going to the More tab, scrolling down, and putting under the minimum age of the house to be 1940 or greater. You can see right here as I put it up on the screen. This simple filter dramatically cuts the odds of inheriting a pre-modern foundation nightmare. It doesn't mean that I'll never buy an older home, but when I do, the scrutiny is much higher, and I almost always will order a structural engineer inspection to check out the foundation. Now let's go over the third and final lesson that I learned, which wasn't a big dramatic failure. It was more of a slow death. It seemed like it happened almost every month to me. Two common problems popped up constantly that I know that every landlord hates, which is clogged drains and pest issues. In one of my properties, the main shower drain would clog up every 3 to 4 months. I'd call up a plumber and he'd snake the drain for $300 and we'd be good for a little while. After the third occurrence at the exact same property, a different older plumber came out. He looked at it for a few minutes and he said, "Dude, you have so much hair down there. Why don't you just put a hair trapper over the shower drains to catch the tenant's hair before it goes down there? And when it does get clogged, you can just buy a cheap snake from Amazon.com and use it to get the hair out of the drain. That way you don't have to keep paying for plumbing cleanouts." I slapped my head. I didn't know it was that simple. I was paying $200 to $300 per visit when I didn't even have to. Now the pest issue was even more annoying. I had a rental with a stubborn rat problem and I would call up a big name pest control company to come out and fix the issue. They would put traps and catch a few rats every time, but the problem never went away and I was paying them over $1,000 a year to take care of it. I later realized that they were profiting from my ignorance. Let me explain. After a year of this nonsense, I hired a handyman to take a look. He looked around the exterior of the house for 30 minutes and he found several small gaps in the roof, in the garage, etc. where the rats were getting in. He said that you could put 1,000,000 traps, but if you don't seal up these openings, you are basically running a free buffet for the local rat population. He quoted me $400 to seal up every single entry point, and once he did that, the rat problem went away permanently. I was mad because I was paying a company over $1,000 a year for something that could have been solved permanently with just a $400 bill from the handyman. That's why I do what I call preventative maintenance to actually prevent the pest problems from occurring, as well as the clogged showers, rather than waiting for them to happen and then having to pay for a temporary fix. All in, the sinking foundation, the collapsed sewage line, the new HVAC, and the endless plumbers and pest guys cost me well over $30,000. That $30,000 could have been used towards a down payment on my next property. It was a painful and expensive education, but you can benefit from my mistakes. I now prioritize newer builds over 100-year-old houses. I budget for specialist inspections on any aging systems. And I do non-negotiable preventative maintenance such as setting up hair trappers in the showers and sinks and having a handyman look around the house for any openings that rats can get in to seal them. Of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg for all of the systems I eventually implemented along my journey. And learning these lessons the hard way was the foundation, pun intended, of all of my current success in real estate investing. It taught me that real estate isn't simply getting lucky. It's about creating systems and risk mitigation. And because I learned how to do that, I can now invest with confidence and a lot more profitability than I ever thought was possible. So those were my 3 most expensive mistakes, and I really hope that sharing them saves you from having the same pain as I did. And once you remove that risk, you can build a portfolio that actually replaces your income, because that's the whole point of doing this, right? Having financial freedom and creating generational wealth. If you want to know exactly how to replace your income with cash flowing rentals, I've got a great video for you called The 5 Rental Rule to Quit Your Job. And it lays out the exact math and strategy to turn a handful of boring, stable rentals into a legitimate escape plan. Click on the video right up here on your screen right now, and I'll see you in there. And if you got any value out of this, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe for more real world real estate advice. Thanks again. I'll see you on the next video.